I literally gave this female a skin fade and I was so scared to do it. I used to be so scared to actually cut females' hair, even if they were getting a fade like this, because I wanted them to like the haircut. But you know, sometimes they have a different style. But we're gonna be giving you a full in-depth breakdown of how I actually went about doing this haircut. And I'm gonna tell you guys a story about a decision that changed my life forever. You ready? Well, let's get into it, because I'm gonna need you guys to focus and lock in. I don't have a lot of time here with you, so I need you to lock in with the time that we got. So the first thing that we did is I just did a little bit of shear work, because the style that we're going for is like a medium skin fade with like a punk type of style to it, like a messy crop. And she actually ends up getting a design on the side as well. So I'm literally just going and I'm point cutting the little bit that she has on the top. Now this is right here, the first gem that I have for you guys, is when it comes to fading, a lot of barbers are scared of fading up too high. Now, the reason why is because you're not setting in like borders in your haircut. This top line that I'm setting in is almost like the border. As long as I don't go above this top line, I know I won't be pushing up my fade too high. Now, what I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers right on the side of her head and I'm making it as tight as possible. The reason why we do that is because it's going to allow us to bring our clipper straight into that guide. Now you see that part that I'm pointing at right there? That part is the square part of the head. So that's exactly where your fingers have to be. And usually I just go ahead and I find it with my comb on every single client, even to this day. The reason why we do this is because you want to have like their head shape understood. You need to understand the person that you're cutting. You don't want to give a cookie cutter haircut and just do the exact same thing. Everybody's a little bit different. You can use a system, but you have to learn how to tailor the system to the client that you have. Now, a little gem that I could give you guys is when you're blow drying the hair, go ahead and actually use your thumb on their swirl. That's gonna help all of that hair around there to lay down instead of sticking up. So now you can see that this is a number 3 guard on my 245 Babeless clipper. And I'm using the number 3 guard to go straight up into that, almost like that weight line that I created in the beginning. This is gonna just take so much of the work out. The reason why is because since I'm blending straight up into that line, I don't have to do a bunch of clipper over comb. I don't have to do a bunch of blending shears. I'm never gonna have to worry about any overhang on my haircuts. Look how easy this is. That's why you guys really gotta learn how to start your haircuts off the right way, because you're gonna get so much more efficient and save so much time inside the process. Now, when it comes to really understanding how to do a fade, what you really gotta understand is the simple rule of stretching your fades out. 99% of these beginner barbers, their fades are too tight, they're too compressed. All your guidelines make them bigger. When you're passing your clipper, pass it a little bit more. But as long as you're staying within the borders of your haircut, between that skin line and that top line that we set in, you're gonna be okay. The reason why is because when it's so much harder to fade, it's so much harder to give a blend and a transition if your guidelines are super, super tight. You can't be scared to cut hair, guys. You gotta cut hair with a level of confidence. And even if you're not confident in yourself, be confident in your system. Now you can see here, I got 2 different trimmers. The soft trimmer is the one that has the metal cap on it. And I use it because it's easier to get the line out. Now, instead of putting in the line, like if I were to do a lineup, I put it in almost like underhand. That's gonna be a way easier skin line to get out of my fade. That's exactly why I do it. And you can see about how wide my guidelines are. You wanna do them a bit wider because it's gonna be easier to get that fade out. Now, if I would have used my other trimmer that's a lot sharper that I use for lineups, this line would have been a lot harder to take out. You wanna set yourself up for success. You don't wanna set yourself up for failure. Now you can see this, my foil shaver right here. And you can see I'm going really, really close to that line. But what you can't see in the video is that when I get closer to that line, the pressure is coming off. It's almost like a flick out motion. Look at that. Now the reason why is because I do not want to create a very, very harsh line. Just practice with different, clipper pressure. So now as we get into the fade, this is my 1.5 guard all the way open, and I'm literally just blending into that 3. This step, you have to stretch the step out. You have to almost think about this guard like a number 2, and you're going literally right under where you had that 3. Then this is my 1.5 closed, and I'm going right under that. And you can see that I'm really stretching on my guidelines, and you're gonna see how nice of a blend comes out after. Now guys, I really wanna tell you guys something. I'm gonna tell you guys a story as we go through the rest of this haircut that changed my life forever. And some of you guys know this, some of you guys don't, but I used to work at Amazon, right? And I was working about 40 hours a week at Amazon, and that was probably the most depressed I've ever been. And I just hated my job. I hated having to climb the corporate ladder and having to like brown nose and stuff like that to try to get raises and promotions. And you know, your promotions weren't really based on your performance. It was based on, you know, if you were a part of the cool kids club, right? And it was an overnight shift. So I would go in at like 3 p.m. and get out at like 2 in the morning. And I would be driving home probably like 30 minutes because the station was 30 minutes away from where I lived at the time. I would get out so freaking tired that I would literally be falling asleep on the road. And there were multiple times where like I almost took myself off the road and crashed because I was so tired. Like I've never been good at driving long distances and staying awake. And I think that's because when I was younger, my parents would put me into my car seat, my baby seat, the thing that goes into the back of the cars, and they would drive around the neighborhood until I fell asleep. And then they would just take my car seat and put it into my crib at the time. And that's how I would fall asleep a lot of the nights where I was really like disturbed, I guess. So I've never really been good at like driving these long distances and staying up. But at the time, I kind of needed to work that job because it got to a point where I knew I wanted to leave, but I needed money for clippers, right? I needed money for clippers, and I already had started cutting hair. I needed to start to pay for my setup. And there was a time where I realized that, you know, the same guy that I've been watching off YouTube, kind of how you guys are watching, you know, this tutorial right now, was at the time it was Chris Basio. He was doing YouTube haircuts, right? And I was like, yo, I want to go get a YouTube haircut, you know, from Chris Basio. And man, I was nervous as hell. I drove probably an hour and a half with my girlfriend, now my wife at the time. And I was nervous as hell to meet him. I was so inspired by everything that he did inside, you know, the industry. And even there's a video still on his channel, and you could see how nervous I am, how insecure I look, how I'm stuttering over my words. I wanted to see that he was real. I wanted to see that he was an authentic individual, because I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, they're not authentic. And that's one thing I want to be true about my channel, is that I want you guys to see me as authentic as possible and just somebody that's real, that's really gonna help you out. That day, after meeting Chris Basio and seeing that he was a real person, like he was a real person, because I genuinely used to think that successful people were like different breeds of human. I didn't even think that we were the same breed of human. That's just not true, right? Everybody is possible of doing more, right? But that day, I made the decision where I was going to commit to barbering for 5 years. I was literally in the car with my wife at the time, and I said, I'm gonna commit to barbering and give it my absolute all for 5 years. And if it doesn't work out, I'll still be young and I can do something else. But I'm gonna just lock in and give barbering my absolute best. And I told her that, and I was honestly scared because I was supposed to go to school to be an HVAC technician. Like, if you don't know what that is, an HVAC is like you fix the air conditioners. And I was in Florida at the time. So I was like, I'm always gonna have work to do, but I said no to that. I said no to that to say yes to barbering. And that's my lesson, that's my gem that I wanna give you guys and you guys are only gonna get these gems on this second half of the video. But the gem that I wanna give you guys is this. You barbers have to commit. That is the problem with barbers, is that we don't wanna commit to anything. And we don't wanna actually lock in. We're scared of commitment, we're scared of going all in. If you're not willing to go all in, you're not gonna get the results of the people that do. It's the side hustles, it's the backup plans, it's the plan Bs, it's the distractions, it's the stuff that takes you off of course. You have to be willing to say no to that to say yes to barbering. Barbering can accomplish so many of your dreams, but it's gonna take that full-time effort. Sometimes it's even gonna take that overtime effort Like I'm telling you, I've worked 6, 7, 8 days, you know, a week at this at times. Not forever, but just for a season. But I committed and gave barbering my absolute all. And in my first year, guys, transparently, I say this not to brag or boast, but to inspire, is in my first year, I made over $100,000 cutting hair. But it was because I committed. I obsessed over barbering. I obsessed over learning and education and getting game from barbers that's already done the things that I wanted to do. And that's why I have the clientele that I have. That, you know, my schedule's booked out. I go into the shop, I cut hair back to back to back to back to back. And I've been able to make the money that I make, open up my own barbershop. But it came from me committing, locking in, and giving barbering my absolute all. And that's all I want for you guys to do, is that if you're gonna be a barber, be a barber. Stop trying to be a barber and a DJ and a crypto trader. Just be a freaking great barber and you'll make so much more money than you ever have. So guys, if you are looking for help when it comes to bettering your haircuts or building your clientele, you know, behind the chair and making more money, or maybe you want to learn to actually raise your prices, whatever it is, there's a way for you guys can start. So there's a free school community that I'm in, and you know, you guys can DM me in there, ask me any questions that you have, and we might actually start doing a Your Haircuts My Feedback, where you know, you can post pictures of your haircuts and we'll give you guys feedback and even give you guys some business gems along the way to help you guys make more money. If you guys like videos like this where I'm more transparent, I give you guys real game, then I'll see you guys on the next one.